Okay.
Our scenario is that we want to design a metal picture frame that's 3 inches by 5 inches, and we want it to be a 1/2 inch all the way around. Decided to start off with something a little simpler, just because of the, I want everybody to get used to it as far as the programming. So we'll start by highlighting square, and we will stretch it over 3 and up 5. Our green check. And now we're going to come in 1/2 inch, which is 2 blocks, and 2 blocks down. And we'll create another rectangle inside this one. So this is the part that we want to cut out. So we have our metal picture frame. If I zoom in, you can see from here to here is 0.5. From here to here is 0.5. It goes from 2.5 to 3. So we know that we have a 1/2 inch frame all the way around, and it's 3 by 5. Most important when you do this, you want to start your drawing from the 0, 0 position, because after we type in our Begingrid parameters, we're at like a virtual 0. So it's easier to program this if our drawing was already done at 0, 0. We're gonna take a look at the CAM file, and we'll just see how the machine plans to cut this out. It's like the 3rd time I've done that today. All right. So we hit play. Looks like it's going to cut the inside of the circle first, and then the outside. And if you notice a window in on this, the computer always adds these little tails to work into the cut. And as long as it's not in a piece that we're going to use, like the inside of this or the outside of these lines, it's fine just to leave them in there. We're imagining like we have a big sheet of metal and we just want to cut 6 of the same frame out of that sheet of metal. So from this drawing, we're going to generate a G code. And we'll call that Begingrid Part 2, Group 4. We'll save it. Give it a few seconds. Now, when we pull this up, show you this, we're going to get some error messages, because you see this really dark line. It's so dark red, it's almost black. This is actually part of, this is our workspace. And I can move this, but it's like really irrelevant right now. We're going to get an error message because when the computer generates lines to cut things, it always generates like 2 to 3 lines to make the cuts. And the computer's cut path travels outside of 0 by 0.034 inches. And it does that because there's 0.034 inches of burn off when the torch is cutting out your shape. Now that's like a negligible amount. In reality, it's not enough to even worry about. But when we pull this up, we will get an error message. Okay. It says it exceeds the machine envelope by 0.034 inches in both the X and Y direction. And that's because our work area is set up to be, it starts on both axes, on both the X and Y at 0. But we'll say that's okay for now, because when we write this code, we're gonna change it. And I am gonna bring up the whiteboard. Actually, you know what? I'll continue just for a minute. Okay, if we look at this code, the computer always generates 2 to 3 lines for each line it's going to cut. We have our inside rectangle, that's boxes 6 through 13. Then we have our outside rectangle, that's boxes 6 through 29. I have a whiteboard prepared of the differences between the computer generated code and also our adjusted G code with the Begingrid. Starts off the same. Once we get to line 4, we're actually going to move this G00 command down lower. We're going to change this to G00X0 to identify our point of origin. And we go back to G603. So I'll annotate here. It is,
wait. So I have to do all of these like into the system when we do the G code, or?
Well, no, because this was a drawing, and all these numbers, the computer generated that. So we don't have to, we don't really have to mess with any of that. There's just a little bit of rearranging that we have to do. And I'm gonna draw arrows, just so you know where we have to do.
Understanding, yeah.
Okay, this I'm gonna type in. We add this. Okay, and per the formula, we have 3 columns, 3 rows. I want it to start at X 0.5, Y 0.5. Since
yeah, you gotta I was gonna say, right, you gotta change the M50.
Yeah, I figured all that out, and I'm gonna get to that part.
I'm about to say, I'm like, I know he see his mistake. I'm like,
yeah.
Okay.
We know our shape is 3 inches in width, so I'll give it an extra ½ inch. So we'll make the spacing from the lower left-hand corner of one part to the next 3.5 inches. And now the outside height of our rectangle is 5 inches, so I gave it 5.5 inch spacing. I chose 0, which means it'll cut column by column. And I chose 0 again, so it actually will cut one column, move to the bottom of the next column, cut that, and then move to the bottom of the third column and cut that. So we add our Begingrid. Okay, and now this line here, put in text first. We're going to change to X0, Y0. And we're going to copy line to okay. We're going to move this line to here. Okay. So this is our beginning reference point after our Begingrid line, which, as I was explaining Friday, basically creates a new 0, 0 position. That's why I wanted to do that drawing from 0, 0. So when I put Begingrid in, all the commands will match up the way that they're supposed to. Okay, so this is our first reference point. Type that in. Okay. We got our first cut reference point, and now we're getting ready to cut out our shape. So we tell the torch to turn on after we move to the reference point, which is right here. And lines, this line, all the way to this line, right before that. You can say between M50 and M51. This is all, I'm going to try to draw this. Hopefully I can. Maybe I'll use my stylus. All right, okay. This is, we're creating the inside rectangle. And that is, it's 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches. Stretch that out so I can try to get it. There you go. I guess it doesn't matter the phone. All right. Okay, so after that, we tell our torch to turn off, and we raise our torch. We're going to start a new shape. Okay. This line here. To move this. This is our reference point for our next we're going to copy this line to right here. And this is our reference point for our outside triangle. Well, not a triangle, a rectangle.
So everything on the left side is what's on the right side?
Yeah, everything over here is the same over here. We just have to move a few things around, and we have to add our Begingrid and Endgrid command so it repeats. But like none of these numbers will really change them. It's just this is the way the computer spits it out. And
yeah, for G code, right?
Yeah.
That's for G code.
Yep. It took the shape we drew and turned it into a G code, which it always comes up. What was that? It always comes up with such a ridiculous amount of numbers, but when you're in the field, it's going to be easier for you to. I can barely hear you. In the field, it'll be easier to make a drawing and then add the Begingrid. I mean, we could manually program this too. I can show you how to do that because we'll probably have enough time. All right, and so this is our first cut reference point for the outside triangle. Okay, we lower our torch back down to 0. Turning off torch. Here we're raising the torch to move to the next spot. Okay. I'll put here an inside rectangle. We're lowering the torch to 0 to Z0 for next series of cuts. Okay, and from this line to this line, we are creating outside rectangle. I should put down the dimensions. 3-inch by 5-inch rectangle. I should put in outside rectangle. All right. Here we are ending the grid subcommand. Raising the torch. And last, Okay, so really the only, other than the commands that turn the torch on and off. Damn it. Just realized I missed that. Son of a bitch, I'm gonna have to retype all this. There should be a, damn. I'll have to retype it, but in here I'll put a note. And that should be right here. I have the code to turn it off, but so we start as normal with our G20, label our point of origin, G603. Then we put in a Begingrid. So whatever we put in from Begingrid to Endgrid, it's going to repeat in the parameters that we set out. We want 3 columns of this part, 3 rows of this part, which is going to give us a total of 9. We want it to start at X.5, start at Y.5. It's going to be 3.5 inches of spacing. In the X direction, 5.5 inches of spacing from the Y direction. We're building it column by column, and we're going to cut column by column. So let me save this. Make sure it's in there. All right, now we're going to actually put this in. So we'll go to our flash cut. We have basically the same thing, and I'll walk you through what we have to do. After line 3, we have to put in our point of origin command. It's always X0, Y0. Now this line here, we're actually going to move this. So I'm going to copy it, Control C. I'm going to put it in just after G603 and hit Control V, copy it. And we're going to take this line out. We just moved it. Okay, we also need to put our speed in this line. Take this speed out. Okay. G00, we're just moving to a reference point. So in between our G00 and G01, we need to tell the torch to turn on. Okay. From line 8 to line 14, that's our first inside rectangle. So after this, we need to tell the torch to turn off. We need to raise the torch. Now, same thing with this line. We're going to need to copy this and put it after the G603. We take this line out. We need to tell our torch to go back to 0 so it can start cutting.
So we're about to see Oh no, we don't gotta do it for this one.
What's that?
I said, what about the speed? Like we don't have to do it for that.
Oh
The
yeah, we
reference
have to
point.
do that. I just hadn't gotten that for yet. But yeah,
Oh, okay.
we gotta put the speed up there. Good catch. Torch on, because we're getting ready to start a new shape. Put our speed up here. Okay. And from line 21 to line 34, that's the outside of our rectangle. So right after that, we need to tell the torch to turn off. Oops. Torch off. Now we need to end our grid. And I'll put some notes in here too. But I wanted to show you what it does first. Need to raise our torch up. And then our last line is to return to the home position.
0.
Okay, so we'll save this as the same thing. Yes. Oh, you know what? We forgot to put in the Begingrid command. All right.
Oh yeah, I was doing.
Okay, right after the G603.
Yeah.
You need to put in our Begingrid.
3. I think it's 3.
Yep, 3 columns, 3 rows.
0. 5.
Yep.
0.5.
And that's where all these drawings are going to start at X 0.5, Y 0.5. There's 3.5 inches spacing in the X direction, 5.5 in the Y. Doing it column by column, and we'll cut column by column. Now this should be. All right, so we close this, and as you can see, now we have 9 picture frames. Just by making a few adjustments, and let me do this. I'm going to change the speed to just to speed up the cut order. So if we were to hit play, going to come to the middle, cut this middle circle out first. Move to the outside, cut this. Just going to move up to the next one. And when it gets up to the top here, it's actually going to move all the way back down to the bottom and start cutting this column. When it finishes that, we're going to go all the way down to the bottom and then cut this column. And we can change that. We can stop it. So everything refresh. It'd say we picked row by row and kept it at row by row. It's going to do the same thing, except it's going to cut this row and come to the beginning of this row, cut this one, go to the last row, cut that one. Or we can also do zigzag pattern. So what happens with this is it'll cut this row, come up and cut this row, move over, come up and cut this row. So it just moves back and forth. To me, that's the way to go. It's the most efficient cut. It saves the most amount of time.
Okay.
Let me go in here and I'll put some notes in our cheat code. Let's see, we are 3 columns, 3 rows. Start X is X 0.5. Start Y. Y 0.5. 3.5 inch spacing, X direction, 5.5 inch spacing, Y direction. We did it row by row, and we did a zigzag. I'll change this to match the lecture notes. And that was column by column. Zigzag. Zigzag color. All right. This is our first reference point. All right, and here I'll just put lines 9 through 15. All right. Torch off. Raise torch. All right. This will be for 3" by 5" outside rectangle. All right. John, and here I will put lines 22 through 35. It's actually 4.5 inches. All right. 3" by 5" outside rectangle, and creating 3" by 5" outside rectangle. And torch off. Okay, let's save this. And save a copy. Okay. Turn off my annotate here and close it. Okay. So here we have our program. And I'll take a copy of this. Okay. All right, so that is pretty much it for today.